Hello students, I am going to tell you about biotechnology and what it is all about. Okay, now let us take the example of a computer scientist. What does a computer scientist play with? He plays with bits and bytes, and then he goes to kilobytes, he goes to megabytes, he goes to gigabytes, and then he goes to terabytes. Fine. What does a chemist deal with? He deals with molecules, he deals with atoms, and then he puts them all together and makes chemical compounds, and then he makes components out of them, and then he makes products out of them. He makes paint, he makes explosives, he makes washing powder. Right? Now, what does a biotechnologist do? Biotechnologist does not play with chemicals, although he does. A biotechnologist does not play with computers, although he does. What a biotechnologist plays with is actually cells. Okay? Cells are the fundamental units of life, and all of us are made of cells. Everything that you see in your hand, in your face, in your hair, everything is composed of very tiny things called cells, and all of them come together and they form tissues, and all those tissues together is what you see as a shape, and that together along with what is called as life, that makes up the essence of what a biotechnologist actually studies. So if you are able to do something to the fundamental unit of life, the cell, if you are able to understand the cell, if you are able to take things out of a cell, and if you are able to change the way that cell behaves using technology, then that is biotechnology. And that is what biotechnology is all about. So what are the subjects that take us to become a true biotechnologist? So as I told you, in the beginning, you will have to learn about a little bit about cell biology, which teaches you what a cell is, what it is made up of, how is it made up of, what does it look like, what are the different kinds of cells. All of these things you will be learning. And once you are able to understand what a cell is, how it behaves, how it speaks to each other, how one cell sends a message to another cell, how one cell will multiply into many thousands and millions and billions of cells, then you really begin to understand that there is much more to life than we could have comprehended. Fine. Now, once you have understood what is a cell, then you move on to cells as an individual but alive. And those are microorganisms. So you begin to learn a bit about microbiology, where you learn about the different tiny microorganisms which are present all around us and within us as living things, but which can only be seen by a microscope. And once you begin to understand the importance of microbiology and the role of a cell, because many of the bacteria are microorganisms which can enter inside a cell, you will be learning a subject called biochemistry, which teaches you how these cells are made in the first place. What are the building blocks of the cells? What are the building blocks of the microorganisms that go into the cells? What are the cells made up of? What are these microorganisms made up of? What are the chemical constituents? What are the proteins? What are the carbohydrates? What are the fats? What are the vitamins? All of these things, these chemical blocks, that you will be learning in biochemistry. So cell biology, microbiology and biochemistry are the fundamental subjects that you will need as the stepping stone in order to become a biotechnologist. Now this is where it starts to get really interesting. As I told you, cells are common not just to us but to every single form of life which is present in this world. It can be a plant, it can be an insect, it can be a human being, it can be an elephant, it can be a whale. It does not matter. Once you are able to understand what is a cell, what are the different types of cells, how cells talk to each other, how cells multiply, what are the different types of microorganisms which are present in the world, what are the different kinds of chemicals that make up these cells, the next step is to understand what is the programming code which makes a cell become that particular kind of cell. And that, my friends, is the fascinating world of genetics. So in the beginning you will be learning the basics of genetics, like why flowers are white and not blue, and when blue flowers and white flowers they mix with each other, why do they form purple flowers? Or why do purple flowers only give rise to purple flowers and not white flowers? These are the laws of heredity and that is what you will be learning in the beginning. But as you go on, you begin to realize that within each cell is its programming, and it is programmed to behave in a certain way. It is programmed to appear in a certain way. And when all these cells are programmed in a certain way, then they form a tissue which behaves in a uniform fashion. And when all the tissues they behave in a uniform fashion, then they result in an organ which behaves in a similar fashion. And when all the organs together function uniformly, then they form an organism. And there you have it. You have a living being. It can be you and it can be me. So that is what genetics is all about. But biotechnology does not stop there. Once you learn about genetics, you start learning about the way in which you can harness the powers of genetics to manipulate the cells. Because if you can crack the code, the genetic code which is embedded inside each cell, then you have the ability to make the cells do as you please. And that, my friends, is where science gradually turns into an engineering discipline, where you are able to control the process of changing a cell by altering its fundamental nature, which is programmed into it in the form of a genetic code. Okay, so you know that all life is made up of fundamental units called cells, and all cells they behave in a certain way because of the programming built into them as part of their genetic code. And then you move into how this genetic code is transcribed and translated to become or to express itself into the characteristics that we see. So you learn about the phenotypic characteristics and the genotypic characteristics, which are a result of genetic expression. And genetic expression is how genes express themselves. And genes come from the DNA. And the DNA is what the programming code of the cell is all about. So let me go back again. The cell has a programming code in it. The programming code is written in the language of the DNA. The DNA becomes an RNA becomes a protein, and you learn each and every step of how this goes on. And once you learn all these mechanisms, you begin to realize that you can slowly start changing the codes here and there. You can change one nitrogenous base with the other, you can change one element with the other, and a new genetic code will come out. And that genetic code will make a new protein, or a protein is not being made properly, and you can insert the correct gene sequence, the right gene. So how do you make a cell behave in a different way? What are the different techniques that you can follow to make the programming, to alter the programming? And this is where you start learning about genetic engineering, where you engineer the genes, to produce or to express differently in order to produce different kinds of proteins. And that, my friends, takes you into the world of genetic engineering. It takes you to the world of recombinant DNA technology and stuff like that. Now once you learn about all these things, I will go back once again and tell you everything. You have learned about the fundamental unit of life called the cell. You are learning about the programming that goes into the cell, which is the DNA, and you learn how the DNA becomes a protein, and then why that protein is important, and you are learning about genetic engineering techniques which can alter the DNA in order to produce different kinds of proteins. And you also learn about how to make recombinant varieties of organisms, different kinds of organisms, which are otherwise called as genetically modified organisms. So I'm just skimming the surface there, I'm not going into the subject. Now, once you have altered the gene in order to produce a protein, it is important to understand why you need that protein in the first place. And that takes you to the world of protein engineering. Okay. So you begin to understand what kind of proteins are important for our body, what kind of proteins are important for the plants, what kind of proteins are important for other living things, and what kind of proteins do we need as human beings for various purposes, including industrial, agricultural, environmental and other requirements. So this takes you into the biotechnology of protein engineering and also slowly introduces you into the wide multidisciplinary applications of biotechnology. Okay, so that is why we are learning biotechnology as a complete disciplinary subject. So it takes you through a multitude of different subjects. It starts with cell biology, it goes up to microbiology, biochemistry, molecular biology, and then it takes you to recombinant DNA technology, onwards to genetic engineering, and then to protein engineering, where you begin to understand how you can design different kinds of proteins. And you begin to understand that all proteins are not enzymes, but all enzymes are proteins. And this is one of the many dogmas that you will be coming across this subject. And once you develop a real love for all of these things, now is the time to start producing these proteins in exactly the same manner and in exactly the same amount that you want. That takes you to the world of upstream processing and to the world of fermentation, which nowadays is called as Bioprocess Engineering, where you will learn to grow cells in large amounts in fermenters under controlled conditions to give you products which are otherwise called as metabolites, because cells produce products and cells don't produce products and they say I am producing the enzyme for the latest detergent that you are going to use in your washing machine. No, cells don't do that. Cells produce what are called metabolites, and you identify that metabolite as a useful product for you and you try to make more of that using what you have learned in biotechnology. So that is the very simple way of putting these things together. So once you learn what is the different proteins that can be produced from this particular cell, and you learn to control the amount of cells that can be grown in the fermenter, you learn to control the amount of products that you can get from them, and you learn to control the amount or the environmental conditions that are conducive to getting more of this product that you want. And this is where money comes in. So this also takes you to the world of bio-entrepreneurship, and it takes you into the world of identifying those products which are extremely essential for certain industries, like the food industry, okay, where microbiology and especially genetic engineering is extremely crucial to get selective strains of bacteria which can produce products or metabolites at specific concentrations and flavors. Fine? So that, my friends, takes you to the fascinating world of biotechnology, and I have just explained only one facet of biotechnology. There is another facet of biotechnology. Now you know that every cell's programming can be manipulated, and this knowledge gives you the idea that the cell programming, which is the genetic code, can sometimes go wrong. And because you know what is the right programming, you are now in a position to identify the different complicated factors that can make the genetic code go topsy-turvy and result in serious diseases like cancer, which is nothing but uncontrolled cell division, which means that the cell's programming has gone completely bonkers. Okay? So how do you treat diseases like cancer? Using what you have learned in biotechnology. That, my friends, is a very big area which takes you into the world of medical biotechnology. Now, what else can you do with biotechnology? Suppose you want a plant that will take very little water and can grow in the desert, but can give you a lot of flowers. Imagine a flowering plant which can grow in the desert. Or imagine a rice plant in the heartland of Antarctica. Is it possible? It is possible by mixing different genetic traits, and that is what hybrid crops are all about. That is what genetically modified organisms are all about. That is what GMO is all about. So hybrid tomatoes, hybrid brinjals and hybrid vegetables and fruits are surrounding you in every grocery and vegetable supermarket, and they are the direct result of genetic manipulation in the agricultural arena, and that is agricultural biotechnology, which is a huge field. The major applications of agricultural biotechnology is in producing drought resistant and pest resistant crops which will be resistant to pests. Okay. Now, what else is there? Suppose a ship is going in the ocean and it has spilled a lot of oil in the ocean. What do? How do you clean it all up? Do you pour another chemical to clean up the oil? That will only pollute the ocean further. Instead, what you can do is you can design microorganisms by changing their programming code to suck up those hydrocarbons more effectively. And you can use the techniques that you learned in Bioprocess Engineering to make more amounts of these microorganisms and deliver them to the ocean in a proper manner, so that these will eventually eat up that oil or convert them to some other form. So that is the area of environmental biotechnology, which is one of the most rapidly developing areas, where you begin to understand what kinds of manipulations are possible to the genetic structure of microorganisms and to the cells in order to survive in this environment safely. And we are not just talking about the environment here on Earth. Biotechnology also takes us into outer space, where we learn about exobiology, where we learn how to grow crops, how to grow food, how to develop cells in outer space. And speaking of cells and tissues, let me tell you that food biotechnology is a fascinating world, because at the very basic level it starts with making cheese and curd and dosa and idli. But at the very extreme end, it goes to the area of bioprinting and to the fascinating world of cell culture, where you don't have to grow a chicken in order to eat chicken. You just need to grow meat as a cell mat. Okay, you need to grow cells which are taken from a chicken, and you can grow them in the shape of blocks or square or circle, and you can make as thick as a block of chicken that you want without really growing the chicken as a live animal. Now, how interesting is that? That will turn the entire idea of non-vegetarian and vegetarian into a very funny joke. Okay, so these are all the very fascinating areas of biotechnology, and it's extremely exciting. It's an exciting time that we are living in, because we live in a time where vaccinations are given to a child right from the time of birth till the child reaches about 15 years of age, and vaccines are a direct result of medical biotechnology. And it will not be possible without techniques like lyophilization. So what do you gain by learning biotechnology? I have told you all the aspects of biotechnology that you can possibly do in a very simple manner. There is absolutely a lot more to biotechnology. For example, the area of computational biology takes you into the fascinating world of protein modeling, and the area of enzyme engineering takes you into the world of washing powders, where you can make enzymes. So what are the different career options for a biotechnologist? A biotechnologist need not just go into research. Major portion of career options in biotechnology is in the area of pharmaceuticals. However, biotechnology is not limited to just the pharmaceutical arena. Now the science of biotechnology has become an extremely multidisciplinary. So which areas does a biotechnologist fit into exactly? What kind of career can a biotechnologist hope to have? Of course, after finishing your graduation in biotechnology, you can do a post-graduation in one of the specialized fields of biotechnology and move on to become a PhD in biotechnology. That is entirely up to the research-oriented people. But the majority of students who would like to become career-oriented, would like to land up in a career after their graduation in biotechnology, will find their options to be a lot, because you are learning about life and you are learning about life molecules and how to manipulate those life molecules and make products out of them. So every single industry where living molecules are utilized, like the food and dairy industry, like the agricultural industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the cleaning industry, the environmental pollution cleanup industries, all of these industries require biotechnologists to develop products, to monitor the products, and to do routine analysis of their biological products. So, biotechnologists are at the crux of every single life industry. So, the most fascinating areas for majority of students are in the world of drug design, drug modeling, where you get to play the part of the person who actually designs and develops drugs against several serious diseases. You also get to play the part of the person who actually formulates those drugs. Now I'm not talking about the chemist. I am talking about the drugs which are made from microorganisms, which are made from natural living organisms. How do you make those drugs from plants? How do you extract the contents which are good for the health of a human being from the leaf of a plant, and you dry it and you make it into a product that can be delivered into the human body? And how do you deliver it into the human body in a painless way? And that takes you into the world of nanobiotechnology and into the advanced world of drug delivery systems. So the science of biotechnology is limited only by your imagination as far as life sciences go. It is a complete package. Life science disciplines are rolled into one single discipline, which is called as biotechnology. So, all the best.